This video is sponsored by the Biscuit Barrel. Don't lie, you haven't heard of this brand before. Oh boy, it's another 25-year-old adult man's opinion on a kid's film again. Pee-pee poo-poo joke bad, cause it's not my thing. Clearly, the intended audience demographic. No, but really, we know how this rigmarole goes. Show up, watch terrible Illumination movie, make terrible Illumination video, bish bash bosh, job well done, kids don't care, profit. And we are, to an extent, gonna do that. This title isn't just clickbait, but I do want to say that Minions 2, The Rise of Gru, actually surprised me. It is probably one of Illumination's best. Maybe we've also just gotten acclimated to Minions' antics, but it seemed like this time they were actually less annoying, and instead more emblematic of the dying art that seems to be for some good slapstick comedy. I enjoyed this film quite a bit, and there's also all sorts of elements to praise. The visuals, for example, they look great. It's clean, it's appealing, it's stylized, the water and its physics looks great. Did you see the one pool scene? But at the same time, it's the same that we've basically had since 2010. Illumination found a look, and they will not move an inch to improve it. On the other hand, I unironically really love the world that Minions is set in. The character work in every film from the Despicable Me franchise is just 10 out of 10 on creativity and fun. This movie introduced a whole enclave of new villains that were just great outlets of something original. I wholeheartedly love Nunchuck. I mean, what a perfect pun. A chaotic concept. They mix together the two types of sisters with Bell Bottom by her side that makes a lot of this feel kind of smart. Not to mention, each of these villains each come with these crazy vehicles like we're on a cinematic reboot of Cell Damage. Does anyone remember that game? I cannot stop bringing up this game every now and again. But just look at all this and tell me these aren't just sequel Cell Damage characters with bodacious personalities, gimmicks, and cars to boot. And Nunchuck has the divine ability to levitate by God's wishes on command, I guess. I am eating this all up. This guy is strong. This one's called Svengeance, and the main guy's super cool power is normal combat. I guess you don't win them all. Still, characters are fantastic. And at the same time, no, they will not be given any real screen time or even dialogue, but it's kind of a bloated ensemble anyway, I guess. So, the Biscuit Barrel is actually me. Look, there I am. It's my reverse Hannah Montana moment. See, on the more IRL side of my life, I'm part of a hyperactive, absurd comedy sketch group called Inspired by the Speed of the Internet. So it's like a TikTok For You page, but put on a stage. And this August, we're heading to Edinburgh Fringe Festival. So if you had plans on going, you can see me live. Any day from the 5th to the 28th, where we're boasting 69 sketches in the space of an hour, with an actual story arc threaded in between. It's a real spin on the sketch show genre, and one I've been part of for years now. Look how young I was back then. So if you're heading to Scotland this summer, keep an eye out for an obnoxious sign, a black and white aesthetic, and giant posters displaying the Biscuit Barrel, Wafering Heights.
Hey there, you had an injury at work recently?
I haven't had an injury at work.
Great! Breaking, boys!
See you in August. What we all really arrived for is the Minions, and arrived we did, en masse. My goodness, why did we do this? What has compelled us to react these ways? Morbius could never.
It's Morbin time.
Sad times. But Minions is en route to just explode at the box office, breaching $1 billion like it was nothing. It's like the Avatar of kids' movies, an enigma for how it's so virally popular, and so, at least in the way of profits, that puts Illumination on top of the animation game, and yet, it is nothing new. This movie was enjoyable, but it is about as forgettable as all the past Illumination movies too. It is now too big to fail, and so too invulnerable to try and do great. It does good, just not great. When you're guaranteed $1 billion, why spend more money when it just seeps into your profits anyway? 80 million, that'll do for budget, less than half that of a Pixar movie, and yet all the more riches. And being the figurehead of children's entertainment, don't you think there's a certain extent of responsibility in the messaging that's guaranteed to reach the maximum number of kids? I don't know if it's just me, but I feel a film like this doesn't necessarily need to have a deep philosophical backing or anything extremely deep, but maybe something positive to be ascertained from it, you know? Something of a moral of the story in there. What exactly are the lessons kids can learn from Minions 2's runtime? If there is someone you put on a pedestal that you want to get closer to, you should badger them relentlessly through the night, pull at their heartstrings, and annoy them to the extent that they can't say no. In a world of social media, which many of these kids will likely be getting into in a few more years if they're not already now, this sure seems like a poor take to follow in the ways of parasocial relationships. But hey, it's funny. And the minions are meant to be an embodiment of chaos. And from Gru's side of things, he is pestered into babysitting his horde of Tic Tacs. They fail him in the most frustratingly padded way, and then the lesson he is to learn by the end of the movie is find your tribe. Except, wasn't that precisely what Wild Knuckles had at the start of the movie before he was betrayed by the very tribe he garnered? Guess it only applies to some. Or it wasn't his real tribe or something. Just accept this gift that was forced upon you. And no, you cannot ask for more space. Which could have been an easy and simple enough message for some of the minions to learn, to teach kids too, you know, to not be completely feral. Who else had a semblance of a message? Oh, Otto, our new 4th minion MC. He learns not to trade stones. Chases a biker, Deus Ex Machina finds him by being found by his target randomly, speaks too much but is accepted with the right type of person and saves the day. Is there a lesson with him? I guess no. Which kinda loops us round to another fundamental little issue with the movie. It's doing way too much at once. With so many plot lines juggled together, I half feel like we spend so much time away from each character, I half forget that we were focusing on them by the time we sling back round to them. And how the story is stitched together is through loose threads at most. It's, as usual, a shallow display of spectacle over anything else. What it does with that spectacle is honestly fantastic in a lot of places, genuinely feeling like there are iconic sequences as Illumination does actually pull its weight to make this earningly large sequel to their biggest IP. The plane sequence moving in sync with the classical music as the minions each take different roles on board is beautifully done together, and so many of the chaotic slapstick moments are genuinely great and actually got a chuckle out of me. Me! And I have no soul behind these eyes. Even the fart jokes felt better, being treated more like stink bombs rather than just, oop, random funny. The generic pop song choices were more functionally placed in this time. Though it did take me out the moment briefly when hearing some of them, since they immediately dated the movie for its original 2020 release, as they were already 3 years old by this point, but still enjoyable nonetheless. And so, for the first 2/3 of the movie, we essentially have a wild goose chase of minion antics as they try to rescue Gru or get a stone. Then, for the final third, the movie takes a bit of a detour. The main 3-clown archetype minion trio reach San Francisco where Gru is being held, and they wander into Chinatown. And the influences from there do not stop until the film is over. It's a bit of a shock, but opens up for a lot of classic fun still to be had, as the minions then choose to learn kung fu to fight for themselves. And there's genuinely a really cool moment we see of this master using acupuncture needles to weaponize her client to fight, which is just so great and creative and fun. And she's voiced by Michelle Yeoh, the protagonist of Everything Everywhere All at Once. Go watch Yow, by the way. That film is immaculate. And she's in so many great movies. Apparently in 3 movies filming right now, and 5 if you count all the Avatar sequels. Anyway, while Kung Fu is the name of the game for the 3 Clowns arc, the MacGuffin Stone also turns out to be infused with the magical powers of the Chinese Zodiac, which also a bit of a sudden leap considering the whole franchise has leaned pretty heavy on the sci-fi element of the world rather than straight up magic, but oh well. And with this as the new reality, it leads into the final battle being set in the middle of the Chinese New Year as the villains use the Zodiac Stone to become giant brute monsters to have to take down in one big boss battle. It's all very safe. You've seen it a million times before, and even though there's obviously no Crab Zodiac, I still think there was a missed opportunity to have the Crab Claw guy, Jean-Claude, to be excitedly wanting to become a full crab only to end up as the monkey he becomes. And how do the minions take down this super boss fight? Oh, well, they get their Deus Ex Machina fighting skills, of course. The classic cliche way out. Just make it a gag, which is just about what I expected from this Illumination movie. Although admittedly, I was expecting more of a giant monster versus giant monster type end, what with Minions 1 also having a giant minion ending and all that. Even still, It was a lot of fun, but a strange detour, opening up to probably get a little bit into kung fu with a master and everything, and made for at least a semblance of originality of why the villains became super monsters. Plus, it was a nice feature of representation of another's culture, and matching to the idea that America is a melting pot of all sorts of different peoples. But at the same time, why? Why the sudden sharp turn down this way? I'll tell you why. Money. And Illumination doing what it truly does best, gathering an audience together and making a lot of profit out of them. The reason there is such a heavy Chinese influence in this movie is because it is required to release this film to the 1 billion extra cinema goers over in China. It makes a lot of sense. And isn't inherently bad. If you can reach an extra $1 billion, why wouldn't you as a business? And you don't need to make a film that wins awards to break boundaries and borders. The only rulings in order to have a film distributed in China is to have it screened by the SAPRFT, bearing in mind only so many international films are even allowed in per year. It must please Chinese audiences with its story, and on the more extreme end, it must promote the same things the Chinese government is promoting. Whether that's full-on propaganda or just not too hard on Western ideals, I guess comes down to a case-by-case thing. With this distribution, studios only get a fraction of the revenue, but at the same time, more money is more money. Oftentimes, for these movies to breach into China, the influences and praising of the culture or certain characters have to be up front and center. And here, that's exactly the case. Is Minions 2 one big Chinese propaganda piece? No. Thankfully, it's simple and safe and childish enough that it doesn't have to pander too hard into the more controversial options of their contract. Of course, it hasn't stopped animated kids movies in the past doing exactly that. I'm looking at you, Abominable. But as a people-pleaser IP that Minions is intending to be, it bridges that gap in a way that's probably as acceptable as it can be. A nice showcase of a legitimate side of American culture, albeit a surprise one to stumble upon 2/3 of the way in. And maybe it destroys the world building if you're a Minions super fanboy. The 70s setting was a lot of fun to see, and certainly the only way kids would be exposed to that aesthetic. And me also, I was not around in the 70s. A lot of characters were a lot of fun to see. I know Biker Guy was just an enthusiastic yes man, but his little relationship with Otto was very wholesome. Otto, that was your tribe. Why are you sticking around just to be another blob, man? The references were very nice. Dr. Nefario was a particular favorite, of course, though some admittedly went over my head. The films were a long time ago, okay? And they were shockingly easy to forget. Maybe that's in design too. Some characters needed work, like Svengeance. There's not even a single rollerblade pun in there. More so just that he's Swedish. The Wild Knuckles and Gru connection was fantastic. Genuinely, young Gru seems like a more compelling character than old Gru. Just a fun story to witness. The fire was pretty when the minions were machina-ing. And of course, when by the end of the film, Wild Knuckles dies, spoilers by the way, you shouldn't really care. As I've learned plenty since watching too many of these, no one dies in an Illumination movie. Not really. And by doing so, it keeps every kid happy, every overprotective type of parent happy. It reaches out to the maximum number of audiences possible by just breaking the popularity scale movies are built on, reaching even beyond to Chinese audiences and their strict processings from the government, and even more shocking than that, it's winning over the teens and the 25-year-old idiots like me too. As I and many other critics, it seems, found this movie to be wholly enjoyable. Maybe they improved the annoying formula. Maybe it's purely ironic in a way Morbius execs could only dream of, or maybe we're just getting used to it. This movie doesn't do anything new. It's the same visual style, the same format of jokes. It doesn't push any boundaries or try to tell a deep theme or much of a thought-out message at all. It is a perfectly functional, perhaps even good, mediocre movie. Taking the most efficient moves to barely do anything at all, and yet be able to feast on the seemingly endless riches of results from the box office. It's the modern Pokemon games of the movie industry, and at this time, it's too big to stop and too big to fail. So the best you can do is put on your suit, dodge the Odeon security team, you know what's up anyway, sit on down and come join for the ride, cause this is the new normal. Illuminations and Minions 2 have mastered mediocrity, and it's something absolutely everybody can enjoy, whether you appreciate it or not. For now, my name's been Dazz, you didn't really care, and I'll see you in a bit.